The problem is we don't have any units in Estonia. We have them in Illinois.
Stationed at a military facility outside Chicago. They've been mobilized by President Trump.
They're getting ready.
Said that crime is out of control.
Ukraine, Estonia, Russia, not of my concern. The true enemy lays in Illinois, Chicago. We gotta go in. We gotta get rid of the democratic wasteland, democratic trash that we have over there.
City. Now, we're learning what they'll be tasked with. Late today, an official with the U.S. Border Patrol in Chicago.
Trump just said the governor of Chicago should be jailed. I'm getting... Shall I just move to New Zealand and you guys can all kill each other? I wish I was from New Zealand lately. Just let them all kill each other. Trump calls for jailing of Democratic leaders as troops prepare for Chicago deployment. U.S. President Donald Trump on Wednesday called for jailing Chicago's mayor and the governor of Illinois. That's kind of to say that. As military officials said on Wednesday, financial guards were now in place. Why? Neither Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson nor Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker has been accused of criminal wrongdoing, though both have emerged as prominent opponents of Trump's immigration crackdown and deployment of the National Guard. Under what? What? Why? Calls for jailing of elected officials because they're against him. The guy's building a dictatorship in the fucking US. Well, damn, it's crazy times, chat, huh? It is. And this is supposed to protect us. This right here is supposed to protect us, guys. What? Damn, it's crazy times out there, huh?
Chicago spoke with CNN's Priscilla Alvarez.
Facility protection, obviously, is going to be front and center to that, whether it's the Broadview facility or any other federal facility that may need protection.
We're going down to one focus tree.
The National Guard will be deployed there, and again, that frees up agents that are now helping to protect those facilities. So it's facility protection.
Will the fault be dictatorship in the United States?
Response forces, if needed.
One thing my 34 years of life has showed me: the one truth is you can't predict anything. The world is so crazy. You can't predict shit. You never know what's gonna happen in 5 years, 10 years. Can't predict shit, bro.
Illinois and Chicago are suing to stop the deployment of federalized National Guard troops. A federal judge is going to hear the case Thursday. Meantime, a judge in Oregon has temporarily halted the deployment, of the National Guard in Portland. But the president said again today that he'll consider invoking the Insurrection Act if the courts block him.
It's been invoked before, as you know. If you look at Chicago, Chicago's a great city where there's a lot of crime. And if the governor can't do the job, we'll do the job. It's all very simple.
The president's getting support from some Senate Republicans who say he needs to keep all options on the table. Limited clashes between protesters and law enforcement in both cities this past weekend are adding fuel to the president's arguments that troops are needed. We'll check in with Shimon Prokupecz in Portland in a moment, but I want to begin with CNN's Omar Jimenez in Chicago. So we heard the specifics from Border Patrol Commander about what the Guard is expected to do in Chicago, basically protecting buildings. Is that what local officials are expecting, primarily facility protection?
What's happening in this world? Once again, I want to always share something that I personally have. I don't know how you guys have this. I want to ask you, Chat. I'm going to ask you something. When I do TommyKay News, I see a world that's going insane. The videos we watch on the stream are mental. Fucking insanity. But the point in my life is, and I want to hear from you, as I turn off my PC, my life is amazing. I go outside, people are nice, no one kills each other. No Syrians are running around raping people in my streets. There's a bunch of drunks, yeah, but everyone is normally a nice fucker and has a normal everyday struggle. There's no insanity in my life, I feel like. You live in Germany though? But do you guys... The life I see in real life is nothing like this. I meet people in the Fight Club, brand new faces all the time. They're normal people. They're not like, yeah, Russia is kind of cool. Everyone is kind of normal, I feel like. Don't you guys have that too? How do you guys feel that? When you leave the world of the internet, is your life still fucking insane? Things can change fast though. You're very ungrateful. What a fucking moron. What a dumb idiot you are. You're very ungrateful. What the fuck? I've never been so content with life, but the world on the screen doesn't feel real. Yeah. Maybe I'm the one who's insane. In public, people hide their true self. My life in London is normal and safe, despite that people always say London is a shithole. London is the most beautiful city I've ever seen, man. The rich want to make it seem worse, so they get richer. You're right, Tommy. I also feel that the private news companies will be successful if they post positive news. No, they will. No. They don't make money with that. We got a teacher who was very pro-Russian. One has a flag pin on their clothes. Where are you from? That a teacher has a Russian flag? What the fuck? Did you ever say thank you, Tommy? I live in the U.S. Midwest in a small city, and literally nothing changes whatever happens anyway. I live in an AFD area, and the worst thing about it is that the Russian drunks at night, but they're typically harmless. In Slovenia, you have a teacher with a Russian flag. You should maybe debate that teacher.
Sure, based on what we've heard from local officials to this point, that
so like the point, real life is not as crazy as all these dumb videos.
One of the clearest indications of what they can expect at this point, that if these National Guard troops are deployed to federal buildings, then it frees up agents to do other things. But what we've seen over the course of today is essentially the beginning of this chapter that
Small village South UK. It's kind of insane how you guys tell me you're from the UK, USA, Slovenia, Turks. There's an Afghanistan guy in the chat, man. It's kind of crazy, man. 100 years ago, we all killed each other, man. Now we're in a chat together. And I think we sometimes need to look at the beautiful things in life. That I don't think it's so easy anymore. Back in the day, I read a book on this a long time ago. It was very easy to give a German a gun and like kill the French guy. The French guy, he's terrible. You never met a French guy. You don't know who the French are. You just fucking shoot him. But now we're more connected. I know French people now from chat in Hoi 4. And I would still totally shoot them, 100%. But we're more connected now, you know? We're more connected now. Look, I wouldn't want to kill you guys, you know? And I think you wouldn't want to kill me. Some of you, you know? It's a good thing how connected we are now. My grandfather tried to invade the UK. Now the UK people, man, are the cool people in chat, man. We're going to get you next time, though, you fuckers.
Been coming for quite some time. We've been tracking the movements here at this Army Reserve Training Center outside Chicago. And really over the course of the day, I mean, first of all, they put up this fence in the hours after the Texas National Guard deployed here. And you can actually see maybe with these lights, there's a few military uniformed personnel coming in.
Once again, I would like, does anyone have a link for me? The National Guard in Washington, D.C., is there already empirical data showing that something has happened with that they actually help the crime rate? Are they arresting people? What is the National Guard in Washington, D.C. generally doing other than presence? Is there anything interesting, anything changing?
Yes, French hate is what will make Europe unite.
Thank you, Lord. They're just eating pizza.
Here in this area.
They shot an unarmed priest in the eye with a rubber emerald.
What will the scope of their deployment actually look like? Will it just
Pam Bondi says crime is down by 30 to 60%. Fuck off. 30-day report. DC crime falls, but tourism takes a hit too. It actually helps against crime. That's a very good argument for Trump, though. Let's take a look. 1 month after Donald Trump effectively took over Washington, D.C., DC's police department, surging federal law enforcement and troops across the capital, crime in the city is actually down now. Homeless encampments have been cleared, and hundreds of people accused of being in the U.S. illegal have been detained. If the stats are like that, though, that's very good for Trump. He's doing what he said. They actually are helping. I'd like to effectively look over Washington. What is this based on? But those changes come at a price. Tourism numbers have declined. Restaurants in the districts are hurting for customers. An already maxed out court system has been pushed closer to the brink with all these cases. And millions of dollars have been spent daily on National Guard deployments. Though Trump's takeover of the DC Police Department technically ends Wednesday, that he can even do that is insane. The administration hasn't put an end date on the surge of federal law enforcement National Guard troop deployment. The trade-offs inherent in the experiment in Washington will continue to fuel fierce debate. Advocates for immigrants and the homeless argue the city-wide crackdown has negatively impacted marginalized communities. Trump, for his part, has declared the takeover as a great success, threatening to expand it to Boston and Chicago. Washington, D.C. is now a safe zone in a matter of weeks, Trump said on Truth Social. Crime has dropped, some more than others, after weeks of federal law enforcement flooding D.C. streets, as well as a National Guard deployment that costs $1 million per day. Experts have estimated the city has seen a decline in reported crime. The trend has been starker in property crime reports than violent crimes, which had already dropped steeply in recent years already. D.C. crime dropped at federal takeover with larger declines for property crime. In the first 3 weeks of President Trump's takeover of police Washington, Reported property crime incidents dropped by 25% and 10% less violent crime. This is a good point for him. But we have also the counter. We also have the counter of what it does to other aspects. It was already dropping a bit, though, you gotta say. Violent crimes actually fell by... That doesn't look like a 10% fall. Kind of the same. The first 3 weeks of Trump's takeover of DC policing, reported violent crimes dropped by 10%. Blah, 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 from the Metropolitan Police Department data. Overall, reported crime decreased in all 7 of DC's police districts, and the decline doesn't appear to be concentrated only in wealthy and tourist-heavy neighborhoods. The crime trends varied by type of offense. There were 3 homicides in the first 3 weeks, compared to 8 in the previous 3 weeks, for a decline of more than 60%. But that's super random. 1 week is 8, 1 is 6. And then you act like, oh, a massive decline. Reported incidents of burglary and theft from automobile dropped more than 40%, while motor vehicle theft was down about 35%. Robberies down by 9%. This is good for Trumpy, man. It's good for him, but it's very, very expensive for the taxpayer. The Trump's crime crackdown. And let's stay here for a second, honestly. Report of other theft, however, fell only by 9%, and assault with dangerous weapons was actually flat. Well, the weapons will never change, man. Down about 3%. Some crimes showed more modest drips, blah, blah, blah. The data doesn't cover all crimes. The joint squad of federal and local officers have brought a significant boost in manpower, more than 500 extra federal officers on the streets every night, a law enforcement source told CNN. This kind of shows, though, you should just fund police more. What if you don't need the National Guard? What if we just fund the police more? I've been always a big fan of that, to give the police more money, man. I've always been very pro for that. This isn't elaborate. A law enforcement source told CNN, the sheer number of officers added to these areas has evidently created a fear among those who commit crime, and they seem to be standing back for now. We'll probably come back, though. A White House official said more than 2,000 arrests had been made since the federal search began. The courts are overwhelmed. Speaking on CNN in late August, D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser, a Democrat who has at times critiqued Trump, said that when crime goes down, neighborhoods feel safer and are safer, so the search has been important for us for this reason. So now she's a bit like, it was actually good. Bowser has also questioned, however, whether the search was largely designed for Trump to impose his immigration aims. According to numbers shared by the White House, federal agents in D.C. have arrested 150 undocumented immigrants. Blah, blah, blah. The uptick in federal officers paired with the focus of Jeanine Pirro, Trump's pick for the city's U.S. attorney, on that he can pick everything. Trump can do whatever he wants. He takes the police department, he picks who's the U.S. attorney in the city. It's insanity. On increasing prosecutions in both local and federal court has created headaches within the district's already strained court system and raised red flags for some judges. As Pirro's office has pushed prosecutors to bring more cases to federal court with the most serious charges that she can pursue, D.C. residents have declined to hand up several indictments, including against a man who allegedly threw a Subway sandwich at a law enforcement guy. One federal judge, Zia Faruqi, has been a vocal critic of Pirro's charging tactics, questioning her management of the office, ridiculing what he called an oversight of civil liberties. This is a problem. If you overstack a court, they will make mistakes. Courses will go fast. You don't have any due process. These catch and release arrests have been presumed innocent people to spend days in jail. Faruqi wrote in a filing Friday in one such case, "This goes against the constitutional norms, and this court will not be silent when presumed innocent people are mistreated." Prosecutors were forced to dismiss one federal case on Thursday after a grand jury declined to hand up indictment against a man who allegedly threatened Trump and others in an intoxicated state, telling officers he had some drinks. It's blah 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 blah. The tourism suffers. Blah 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. Restaurants are slowing down. The homeless are still there. Anger and fear in school. Super fucking weird if like an army is like next to your school and shit.
To protect federal property and personnel, as we sort of have heard to this point, or will it be more community-facing, which has been one of the concerns from folks in the community who have had multiple run-ins with federal immigration?
Still, data shows that even before the National Guard was deployed, DC had a 30-year low in crime.
Enforcement to this point. So that's one of the lingering questions. Now that we know they're here, what's next, Anderson?
All right, Omar Jimenez, thanks very much. Joining me now, former Chicago Mayor Rahm Emanuel. I mean, does this make any sense to you? This is now deployment of the National Guard.
Tourism was already going down from the immigration crackdowns.
It's for facility protection to free up resources of, I guess, ICE.
Hey, look, public safety is a serious issue, and I don't think is being dealt very seriously by the president or his effort. They've, as far as I can tell, never reached out to Superintendent Snelling, very good superintendent, and asked him, okay, what do you need?
Superintendent
of Chicago, or in any city for that matter, or Los Angeles, or Portland, or any city. What do you need? I mean, the basic strategy of reducing crime is putting more police on the street and getting kids, gangs, and guns off the street. There's a ton of things the federal government could partner with a local who know the area. And National Guard from Texas, they don't know Grand Crossing, they don't know Englewood, they don't know Woodlawn, they don't know any of these communities. I think defunding the police was a stupid idea. I think sending in the National Guard is a ridiculous idea. It's about community policing.
This guy didn't care if people died when he was mayor. That sounds really populist. Do you have any data on that? This guy didn't care people die? What?
Knowing the residents of that neighborhood and working with them. And I think this
He's just preparing it to be normalized that the army gets used. That's what I think too. It's Steve Bannon's MAGA agenda. More and more bullshit, so the people are more normalized to it.
There was the American carnage the first time around. I mean, this is an extension of, these
God, New Zealand looking really nice nowadays,
falling
man.
apart. Even though Dave Axelrod was on the program last night reading what the Trump Hotel is advertising in Chicago, and
he says he only sends it to Democratic cities because they're dangerous, but the most dangerous city in America is New Orleans. Let me figure shit out of myself. Let me do my own research. I have to go to sleep soon. By stats, which are the most dangerous cities or areas in the United States? And who and are they run majorly Democrat or Republican? I will think Democratic cities are more dangerous. Dangerous is just a loaded term, but most analysts use violent crime rates, like homicide assault per 100,000. According to USA Facts, in 2023, among large U.S. metro cities, Orleans Parish, New Orleans, Shelby County, Memphis, St. Louis, Baltimore, and Washington, D.C. had the highest homicide rates. The most dangerous cities 2025 ranking is Memphis, Tennessee, rank 1. Other frequent city, high violence cities are Detroit, Baltimore, St. Louis, neighborhoods of Chicago. Smaller cities like Jackson, Mississippi, blah, blah, blah. This is where things get very complicated. Simplistic narratives like red states have high crime or blue cities have a crime rate fail when scrutinized. The world is once again a bit more complex than that. Here's what research and data shows. Many of the cities with the highest homicide or violent crime rates are led by Democratic mayors. For example, a Congressional House report in 2022 claimed that 27 of the top 30 U.S. cities with the highest crime rates were Democratic mayors. Okay, not good. However, correlation is not causation. This is something most people don't understand anymore. A rigorous academic study by the PMC and NIH found no strong evidence that majoral partisanship has a detectable effect on overall crime rates, police spending, or arrest. The Brennan Center reports argues that the rise in murder rates around 2020 did not vary substantially by a city's voting pattern, but rather on what? On a state level, there's evidence that red states often have higher murder rates on average than blue states. The third way, Red State Murder Problem report notes that in many recent years, murder rates in states that vote Republican have been higher than in Democratic states. Some analysis, I wish they would explain what is then the cause. Oh, that's deep shit, guys. That's deep shit. That's deep shit, man. That is like legit science. We don't like that. Some analysts point out that high crime areas in red states are often the blue enclaves. For example, cities within otherwise Republican states. One piece notes that Jackson, Mississippi is a blue city in a red state. Interpretation. The fact that many high crime cities are run by Democrats does not prove that Democratic policies cause crime. Many other confounding factors like poverty, segregation, education, policing resources, and structural inequality matter. The political affiliation of a mayor or city government may have relatively limited direct influence on crime rates compared to deeper structural socioeconomic factors. The phenomenon of a blue city and red state complicates simple state-level generalization. Crime tends to shift over time, and local leadership often adjusts strategy in response. The cities that tend to have the highest crime rates are indeed Democratic run. Many of those cities are led by Democrats, but the fact alone doesn't establish causation. And the relationship between politics and crime, I'm going to be a little bit critical here and be a bit pro-Trump. I fully understand this correlation stuff. But if... How many? It just said, how many? 29, what is it? 27 out of 30, the top 30 crime are democratically run? Democratic cities in red states, though? At the state level, Republican voting states historically have tended to have somewhat higher murder rates on average in recent decades, though much of that is driven by specific high crime cities and local conditions. In short, dangerous cities are often Democratic run, but that's more of a coincidence, where high urban density, poverty, and inequality tend to cluster. Very, very, very complex. Explain that to a voter, man. That's not easy.
Sounds lovely there right now, actually, according to Trump Hotel. But this is equating crime also then with
cities also just more likely to be Democrats, because cities, yeah.
Immigrants, and that's the linkage here.
Anderson.
But there is only 7 Republic-run cities in the entire U.S. One sec. That's actually super interesting for correlation and causation. How do we define a big city? Under a common definition of a big city, how many cities in the US are Democratic-led and how many Republican-led? Can we name a percentage? Cities always have bad crime rates and stuff. Yeah. It's very complex. 65 of the 100 largest cities have Democratic mayors. That leaves 25 Republican mayors among the top 100 cities. So that's 25%. 25%. In percentage terms, that would mean 25% Republican, 10% independent. Many U.S. mayoral elections are officially nonpartisan, meaning the ballot doesn't list Democrat or Republican. The top 100 cities, blah, 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 blah. Okay. A city is more likely to be a Democrat, so, and a city is always like, it's very complex stuff. I think you get it. It is. This isn't complex. This is very complex. Explain this to a fucking American, bro.
Everybody wants law and order.
It's much easier to sell Democrats. Their cities are full of crime.
None of this is following the law, and it's definitely creating more disorder than order. As simple as that. And, you know, I'm sure David said this, but his condo is right there on the Riverwalk. I mean, his hotel and his building and condos. Condos are going for millions of dollars. That's not disorder. That's not crime out of control. There's a crime problem. Full stop. There's a public safety problem. As somebody who visited kids in hospitals.
I'm from Chicago, and the West Side has no police activity.
There's a way for the federal government to say, we're going to fund
Democratic mayors tend to lower police funding? Probably, yeah.
Officers and recruit them for you. We're going to pay and help you with resources for kids for after school hours so they have a mentor doing athletic, academic, artistic activity. We're going to prosecute the 3 or 4% who are overwhelmingly committing overwhelmingly.
I'm just seeing what ChatGPT says. Is there, I think the answer is yes, empirical data that Democratic run cities or states tend to defund security, such as the police force, more often than Republican run? I think the answer is yes, I will guess, right? Thank you, Totor. Great question. Thank you so much. Yes. Short answer is not convincingly, and the evidence is mixed. Once again, the world is more complex than we think. While there are scattered high-profile cases and so-called defund the police efforts in Democratic jurisdictions, broader empirical studies suggest that police budgets generally either remain stable or increase regardless of party control, and Democratic-run cities and states often spend more per capita on policing than Republican ones. Whoa. Democratic-run cities and states often spend more per capita on policing than Republicans. Whoa. Dude, what? Bro, what? Studies showing no systematic pattern of defunding by Democrats. Now it gets deep, my dear friends. A recent analysis of mayoral elections over 3 decades found no strong influence of partisan control on police department budgets or the number of sworn officials in cities. In other words, Democratic mayors are not systematically cutting police budgets more than Republican ones. That's big, man. That's very, very big stuff. Neither party does a better job. Research published in 2025. Science Advances. This is a paper. We don't like papers. That's the same paper from before. We're always finding this paper again. Interesting fucking paper, huh? Interesting. The study effect of the 2020 Black Lives Matter protest on police budgets finds that 13-hour stream, I'm running out of voice. In the wake of the 2020 protests, city police budgets generally did not decline. In fact, in cities with large Republican vote shares, budgets were more likely to increase. OOP Academic by M. Ebbinghaus, 2025. From defunding the refunding police, institutions and the limits of reform, the author points out that institutional arrangements like size of city councils, rules governing budget changes often matter much more than formal party labels. So in many cases, the rhetoric that the defund the police doesn't not translate into actual sustained reductions in policing budgets in democratic-led jurisdictions. I think I can't go to jiu-jitsu tomorrow. My arm is very hurt. Wow, I might have to stream tomorrow. No jiu-jitsu. Generally hurt a bit. Ow. A report from the Third Way, in Germany that's the Nazis, argues that Democratic-run large cities tend to have higher per capita police staffing and higher police spending than Republican ones. Again, you got to be careful correlations. If the Democrats have all the cities and bigger cities, that just makes sense. Doesn't mean Democrats are better with police. For example, they report that the 25 largest Democratic-run cities employ about 75% more police officers per capita than the 25 largest Republican-run cities. Per capita, though, that's important. Per capita, that's important. Another analysis using U.S. Census data finds that blue states, like people that voted for Biden, spent 30% more per capita on policing than red states. How's that fucking... What? Really? Bloomberg even reports on city budgets in 2021, notes that even in cities under pressure to defund, many were expanding police budgets. Dude. There's also some isolated defunding cases, though. Like after George Floyd, some cities proposed cuts to the police. The Guardian reported that over 20 major U.S. cities reduced police budgets in some form. To the scale of permanent of cuts was slightly different. Oh, and so on and so on. It's deep shit, man.
The amount of crime and help go.
The problem is really, man, how do you explain this to a fucking voter, man? It's fucking what? I was reading Arnold Schwarzenegger's book last year. Arnold Schwarzenegger. And there's a very interesting chapter I never forgot about how he was the governor of California, and he explains a story. Maybe last thing today. I gotta go after this. Arnold Schwarzenegger explained how he had certain ideas. I don't remember what it exactly was. He had like a plan that would help the people. So what he did is he wanted to be a very good Democrat, Republican in the democratic system. And he did, here's 3 bills. I forgot what the bills were. I will let you, the people, vote on this. Right? And what happened is he got fucked. They voted everything against. They hated him. And then Arnold Schwarzenegger explained the big mistake I did with these bills that would have helped the people, that would have helped these people. Was it educational stuff? I don't know. Is they were too complex. The people didn't understand them. He tried to explain it to them in public, but it was too complex and it would blow people's head. And he then said in his book, what he learned in politics, you gotta stay simple. A lot of people don't fucking get the shit. Trump is very good at that stuff. You gotta stay simple. It's, people don't understand super complex fucking shit, man.
After the gang members that are really the problem. There is a menu of things the federal government could go to any police chief, any mayor, and say, how do we help you?
Send me the paper in the Amazon chat. Just Google it real quick. It was called,
Zero.
You know, I lost it.
This isn't even close. It's not a second cousin. It's not, no. This is something the president's always wanted to do because he wants to own these cities and make them something. And let me, that is part of his image that he could call out the National Guard. The other thing is the Chicago Police Department is 12,000 officers.
I mean, just watch the VOD. What is wrong with you? Watch the VOD. You see it there. Why you gotta annoy
200
me?
officers, not even one of the 22 districts. It doesn't even add up. So the idea you're going to bring public safety to a city where the problem is not just about police officers, that's a central piece of this, or law enforcement, but there's another set of components on prosecution, investments in after-school programs, like a whole set of things that the government can do. But 200 guardsmen from Texas who don't know any of the community or any of the residents of the city of Chicago are not going to do anything on public safety, and they're definitely not going to do anything on immigration efforts.
I mean, there have been some who have suggested that...
And I mean that by when the president said we're going to go after criminal elements, that is different than what he's doing, taking people that are following the law, going to court, following the procedures of the law, and nabbing them. That's why I said this is not either fighting crime or enforcing the immigration laws according to...
There have been some who've said that they think this is a sort of an idea of like normalizing the presence of U.S. military forces or National Guard forces in major cities in America.
I don't know.
I would really urge you guys to, as a final thing, to check out Steve Bannon. Maybe we should do a stream. We should do a stream looking at Steve Bannon, the great architect of the MAGA movement, who is a big advocate of flood them with bullshit. Normalize stuff. Normalize insanity. Normalize the Gulf of America, taking Panama, fucking with Greenland. Normalize this stuff and make the humans, the voters' brain, susceptible and more open for all this insanity. It's literally in his fucking writings, man. We should do a big Steve Bannon stream. I gotta be able to sleep, man.
She slipped through my fingers like sand. Heard that she got a man. Now I'm just sitting here sad. Oh well, ship sail. She slipped through my fingers like sand.